Fayute, my Irish friends. Nice to have you all here with us today. It's Wednesday, 27th of October, 2021. It's 9 o'clock here in Ireland, in UK, 10 p.m. in France, but it's 3 p.m. in Chicago. Where is our guest today, Daniel Stiegel? He is with us, and he's in Chicago. So a little bit about Daniel. Daniel, he's living, as I said, in Chicago. He's 20 years old. He's bachelor's in business administration in physics. And also, on top of this, he works with the youth group for the spirits group called Batuira in São Paulo. So, Daniel, welcome to our show today. Thank you for your availability and time to talk to us.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Good evening for all of you that are watching us tonight, or good afternoon, depending where you are. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. And so, just to remind you, today's topic is: do we know the educators, Jesus and Kardec? Okay. If you have any question, if you have any doubt, then please write in the comment box, and we will address your question. So I hijack the introduction. So Elsa, please.
No, I'd like to say hello for my friends that are here, Marisa and the others, and the ones that are with us in this wonderful living tonight, live tonight, and say to you all, thank you so much for supporting us, for giving us the opportunity to be together and to talk together. So everyone, my regards, my great heart for everyone, and the special Daniel here, Stevan, Silvia, Charles. So, benefactors, thank you.
Yeah. Ms. Gibbons?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever. It's always a great pleasure to be here, and it's a grateful time for us to be together. So welcome, Daniel. We're grateful to him for being here with us, and to everyone that's participating and sharing this moment with us. May God bless us all.
Ms. Kempf?
Bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir. Je suis désolé, la semaine dernière, c'était le lendemain d'une petite chirurgie, donc c'était un peu délicat. Mais voilà, une semaine, et puis la bête se rétablit tout doucement, et puis elle est de nouveau là avec vous. Très heureux d'accueillir notre frère Daniel qui va nous parler donc de ces questions liées à la personnalité de Jésus. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Happy to be here again with you. Sorry for last week. It was a little bit, how to say, too close to the surgery, but now 1 week later, I'm already okay. Not really standing yet, but the head is already working full speed. So I'm back here with you. It's a big pleasure also to welcome our brother Daniel Stiegel, who will give us a talk today about Jesus.
Great. Thank you. And yes, we are here wishing for your speedy recovery, my friends.
So, Thank you.
Thank you for your efforts to join us today. So, without any delay, let me share my screen. We will watch two quick videos. One is who was Jesus, the other one who was Kardec. And then I will open Daniel's microphone, so he will give a brief explanation, 10-15 minutes, and then we will start our talk. So if you have any question, please prepare, because we will have time to address your question, to answer your doubts as well. Okay? So let me put it here. And there we go.
Jesus' role was not simply that of a moralistic lawgiver with no other authority than his own word. He came to fulfill the prophecies that had announced his coming. His authority derived from the exceptional nature of his spirit and his divine mission. He came to teach humans that true life is to be found not on the earth, but in the kingdom of heaven. To teach that he came to teach humans that true life is to be found not on the earth, that develop meaning and to adapt it to the degree of humankind's advancement. That is why that in this law may be found the principle of duty to God and to one's neighbor.
All over Paris, people everywhere are going mad over this table phenomenon.
Despair in this darkened world. That alone could explain this belief in otherworldly spirits.
Let's put an end to this farce.
They're here. They're all around us. I can't tell the dead voices from the real ones. Even people I can see and talk to, I'm not sure.
Well, to do that, I need a method, a rational scientific study based on facts. I put forward the same question to different mediums. If the answer I received was the same, then we would have to assume the answer came from one singular origin. The world is moving toward a revolution, one that will define our lives to come. I give you the Spirit's book, a toast.
Allan Kardec.
Maybe this is the result of my vanity.
Those aren't the words of the man I married.
Unshakable faith is that which is capable of facing reason without fear. That is the simple truth.
Okay, so with these two brief introduction, I will open floor for Daniel. So Danny, it's your time, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Stevan. Thanks all of you. It's a great pleasure to be here. Just reinforcing, if you want to make any question, comments, please use the chat. We will try to address that as much as possible. I think we have some time. And the topic today is very important, talking about Jesus and Kardec, those two very important characters in our history. It's a big challenge, but I think I'm going to give an overview for now, and then we can open for a discussion. So let's first understand what's the setting when Jesus came to earth. So before Christ, we had what we call the first revelation with Moses. As a prophet, he revealed the knowledge of the only true God, and he also promulgated the law of Sinai. That is the foundation of the true faith. But as a man, he was the legislator of his people. So he created several transitory laws, let's put like this, that Christ reject those transitory laws, but he started building up in the ancient laws of what was eternal and divine. So basically, he adds two additional important elements that Moses haven't spoken. So he ascribes a new character to divinity, to God, and also gives the sense of the future life. So let's talk a little bit of those two new attributes that Jesus brings. So instead of a God that was vindictive, jealous, terrible, that you would be afraid of, that was the God of Moses, a God who punished the community for a fault of the chief. Christ puts a God that's impartial, that's good, and that's just with everyone. That's made, and Christ made like the love of your God with all your heart and all your soul, and the first greatest commandment, and the second one, love your neighbor as yourself. So he brings this principle of equality and universal fraternity that wasn't there with Moses. So this is the first contribution that Christ brings, but it also gives a sense of the future life that also Moses haven't spoken, and this deeply modifies the way that people relate to each other, and impose new obligations to people as life will continue, and this life will be somehow related to how we live here. So those were very important um, insights for that time. But first of all, it's important for us to understand who was Christ, um, why did he came to earth, and what education method he used, considering the condition of the people at his time. We are talking about 2,000 years ago, in a specific point in the globe. So we need to understand a little bit of the culture there. So first, to understand who is Christ, I recall that in the Spirit's book, from items 100 to 113, there is the Spirit hierarchy that Kardec um, puts the hierarchy of the different spirits, and Christ is a spirit of first order, so a pure spirit, and in fact, he's the only one of this category that was ever born in our planet. And as a first order spirit, he had absolute intellectual and moral superiority in relation to all other spirits. So he had reached the highest perfection possible for spirits and for beings, and he somehow had a bosom of God. So he had the ideas of God. He was always together with it. And in the same book, on item 625, the spirits affirm us that Christ is the guide and the model that God offered to the humankind. So he brought the knowledge, he brought some new insights, but he's also the guide and the model. So lots of the learnings we should take from Jesus is not just what he said, but also how he behaved. And it's also a very good principle when we are in doubt of how to behave. Maybe wonder how would Christ behave in this similar condition, and then we'll see how far away we are still from perfection, and it's expected as we are in our world. But it's a model that God offers for us. But although Christ made those important revelations that I just mentioned, he was unable to impart all the truth, right? So um, all that all the things he brought was already very disruptive for his time, and even like people that were super close to him did not fully understood that, and Christ was okay with that. So I think a very specific passage that I like to recall is in the last meal they were having, and he mentioned that one of them would um, would denounce him, right? So and he knew who was the guy that was going to portray him, but he did not went there to talk to him. He did not went, don't say that, you are doing wrong, you you shouldn't do that, or you are like expelled from here. No, he just wait and leave each left each one to use their own willness and their own freedom and learn from its own mistakes. So that was the method that Jesus himself used, many times using allegories and parables, because he spoke according to the time and the place he was. And he self adds that all I have spoken while still with you, But the Consolator of the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all the things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. This is in John. So Christ himself announces that he wasn't able to teach everything, and that someone will help us clearly understand that in the future. And this will be the Consoler. So this is important, the Consoler, and will teach other things that would go beyond. So that's a little bit about Jesus. And then we need to talk a little bit of Kardec as well. So what's the world that Kardec found? So Leon Denis, in his book Life and Destiny, he gives us some insight of the context of the time, and the main characteristic there was that science and religion were very separated one another. So from one side, the religions opposed barrier against passion and barbarity, but they engraved conscience of the man and the idea. So the dogmas and the rigid forms of present in religion immobilize the thoughts instead of inspiring flight. So in a certain manner, the scientists and people that were very smart, they were further from the church. So we can recall what happened to like Copernicus, Galileo, and other scientists. So the church was very rigid with scientists and did not like that people think, while this was the natural thing for humans. Like we want to think, we want to have our ideas, we want to bring this for discussion, and religion was unable to do that on that time.
I think his internet, it's, I had a problem with connection here. I mean, yeah, he's still freezing.
I'll send a message in WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah, he's back.
good and interesting what he told, huh? He's back.
I'm back.
Okay,
Sorry,
welcome
guys.
back, Danny.
Apologize. Where do you missed me? I think my internet. So where do I stop? Sorry. Which part? Which part?
Yeah, you were talking about.
You're talking about Kardec.
In the context when he came, as per Leon
when he
Denis,
came.
problem of life and destiny.
Okay, yeah. So what Leon Denis says about in the book Life and Destiny of the context when Kardec came was that science and religion were very separated one another. So in one side, the religion with its dogmas was immobilizing thoughts. So it's just like we recall what the church did with scientists such as Copernicus, Galileo. So the church was very rigid with scientists and did not stimulate people thinking. And this was very negative because all those scientists and thoughters were like going away from the church and from the religion, the blind faith that this created was followed by the unbelief, the materialism. So that was what happening with religion. On the other side, we have the science that was focused exclusively on studying the matter without considering the spiritual life and the personality of each one. So that was the context. And in this context, Professor Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, who after adopted the pen name of Allan Kardec, he was born in France in 1804. And he graduated as a pedagogue at the Iredon Institute in Switzerland. And he was a student of Professor Pestalozzi. And in the school, he develops the observation skills, and based on the Pestalozzi method. And this helped him develop himself as an observer and as a scientist. That was very important for the development of Spiritism. He spoke several languages, so French, German, Dutch, Italian, Spanish. In fact, he worked as a translator for some education books for a while. He also had some scientific books he published himself. But by that time, there was the table turning phenomenon that was pretty common, and you saw in the video that we shared before. And particularly in France, this was very common, but it also happened around Europe and other countries. And he decided to study this phenomenon with the assumption that if the tables are able to give intelligent answers, there might be some intelligence behind. So Spiritism is based on a complete set of facts. So it's experimental when it studies the phenomenon, which is based, but it's also rational when verifying and teach and deriving the theory from those phenomenons. So everything that the spirits say is confirmed by experience, and every phenomenon that's observed experimentally is tried to be explained in a rational way. So that's the base of Spiritism. And the idea of Kardec was to build Spiritism in the same way that exact science, so implying the experimental method. So let's see an example that he mentions, Kardec. So there is a fact that some spirits don't know that they are that they have died. So they think they are still incarnated. So, however, some superior spirits who know it well could tell Kardec, like, there are some spirits in that condition. But wasn't that like what happened actually? What happened was that those superior spirits allowed that some spirits in this condition that didn't know that they have died, manifestations of those spirits that we could observe. So we could observe some spirits and talk to some spirits that didn't know that they have died, and understanding that there were some spirits in that state, and seeing that this was common, it was not like just one single spirit this happened, then we can imply that this could be a phase of spirit life, and we could write down some of the principles. So this is an example of spirits that didn't know that they have died, but this was also applicable for other phenomenons and other concepts that Spiritism brings. And the Spirit's book, that's one of the base of Spiritism, was based on millions of communications originated from different origins, from different countries, very unknown from each other, very independent from all over the world, that Kardec gathered after certifying its authenticity, the points that were agreed, the points that were in common. So typically what Kardec did was asking similar questions in different formats to different spirits to ensure that the spirits don't contradict themselves. Because it's not because the spirit is died that he knows all the truth. So it was very important to ensure that everything was real and truth. And an interesting fact we can see when we read the Spirit's book is that several answers have "we already said," "as we already told you." So it's because Kardec many times asked the same question in different ways, so that there was no doubt and that everyone could understand. So that's a brief summary of those two important characters. And I'm open to questions and for the discussion. I hope I could give an overview to kick off our discussion here.
Thank you, Daniel. Let me change the format here. By the way, I want to say thank you to all friends who are writing to us. Marisa from Brazil, Bruce from Oregon. Nice to have you here, Bruce. Beatriz. Someone I think is quite familiar for you, Danny. Marina Stiegel. Yeah. Our dear friend Patricia. Let's see more. Atman Spirit. Good. Isabel Quirino. And Hipólito Rebolo. So good to have you all here and all the others who didn't leave a message, but it is watching us. So thank you very much. So who is a volunteer to kick the first question?
So Daniel, you are how to say in administration and physics, living in US, in Chicago, and so on. So coming close to this, I would assume university ambient with professors and so on. How do you think is the spiritualist paradigm considered today in mainstream science? Are there already some who are, how to say, having a bigger openness or a growing openness to the spiritualist paradigm? And how long do you think it will still take in order to how to say, to change?
Very, very interesting question, Charles. Thank for your question. So I will recall something that I said, that religion and science were like kind of separated, and it's something we can see today, that still, if you go to universities and look for your professors and your academics, it's hard for you to talk about problems such as destiny, such as what's our goals and objective with our life, what's the reason for people to die so young or to have sicknesses and some unexplainable things. So I think still university is not the main source for those things. But I would divide the reality in three aspects. So the matter, that's the what we see, the internal world, that's ourselves and our mind and everything that's in us, and the spirit's world. So what's beyond the matter we see and we feel with our machines and with our five senses. I think the science is doing a very good job with matter, understanding the physics and chemistry laws and biology, and it's starting to do a very good job with the internal part as well, with all the areas of psychology, understanding what's the relationship between our minds and our health and our wellness and meditation and all of that. So I'm currently coursing an MBA program here at Chicago, and there is a particular class called PLI, that's Personal Leadership Insights, that's very focused on self-knowledgement. So we try to think about our values, think about our needs, think about our strengths, and how we feel ourselves as a friend, as a family member, as a leader, as a worker, so that we can have better control in our daily life. And it's very interesting to see that people like me, like that, don't like from all over the world that are doing the MBA, they are worried with those kind of things. But I think still science is not so well in the spirit life, and spirit, what's beyond the matter and beyond us. But I think it might reach there actually, if we like physics is trying to understand dark matter and dark energy, and what we had a long time ago, that we have the atom as something that was not able to be divided, and now we know that it's divided, and the electrons also can be divided, and everything is converging for energy field, and this energetic field can it's very similar to what we study as the cosmic fluid. So I think science is getting there slowly. I don't know how fast it's gonna be. So I think those two are so in the internal world and also the spirit's world will be acknowledgement in what we'll call the like all the acknowledgements will be one unified knowledge, one single source of truth, because nature is one single one that the God has created. So that's, I hope to have answered. Do you?
Thank you perfectly. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. And Danny, we do have another question for you, but also another fan of you, Elizabeth Stiegel. Good to have you here, Elizabeth. So this come from a Spirit Center Punto de Luz, and the question is, what did Kardec did differently from other spiritualistic religions, which also had mediumship phenomenon on their practice?
Okay, interesting question. Thanks a lot for sharing with us. And I think for sure I'm not a very well known expert of all the spiritualism religions that are out there. So I can talk a little bit about how I compare spiritism with an average um, spiritualism religion. I think is the part of study. So spiritism is very serious about that. Even if you have a sensibility, a mediumship, um, if you follow Kardec, it's important for you to study, for you developing it together with the knowledge, to be able to control that, to be able to understand the importance and the challenge that has. It actually has a whole book on the 5 books of Kardec that's specifically dedicated for this phenomenon. While my impression, again, with not a deep knowledge of all spiritualism religions, is that some of them you jump into the phenomenon, you do the manifestations, you learn how to control it because you've lived it several times, but with less education on why does this happen, what's the utility of that, why God allows this phenomenon to happen, what's the importance of this. So I think those are the main difference. So the part of the study and the scientific part that's behind spiritism and what Kardec brings makes it very complete, in the sense that we can say that spiritism is a science, a philosophy, and a religion. And we have many important applicabilities of mediumship in our spiritism, but we also need to be careful and be aware that not all the answers will come from through a communication, a mediumship communication. So we cannot expect spirits to reveal us things that we could discover alone with our work, with our effort. So it's always important to be aware of that. And again, we cannot consider that every spirit is the source of truth just because it's a spirit. We need to be careful with every communication we receive, and that's I think a very important thing that Kardec writes in several of his books and communications.
I think, can I
Thank
speak a little
you.
bit?
Thank you. Yeah, sure.
Now, only I was when Daniel was answered the question, I was thinking about one important goal that Kardec achieved, that was the information regarding mediumship is for free. At that time, so still now, there is a lot of people in spiritualist church. They do a nice and beautiful job. They give healing. They are mediums. They do clairvoyance, etc. And all sessions, you have to pay. You have to contribute with something like that. And spiritism, you do it in private, and respecting the dignity of the spirits that they are communicating, or the situations of this. We don't do clairvoyance, and there are slightly differences in between spiritualism, mediumship, and spiritism with Jesus mediumship that we are studying now. Yeah, it's a gift, not a profession.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Elsa. So, just to remind you, that question from the Centro Espírita Pão de Luz, it was made by our friend Rodrigo Ortega from Spain. So, thank you, Rodrigo, for being here with us today. Also, we do have another question here. This comes from Bruce from Oregon. Daniel, do you believe that Jesus the Christ was and is the only Savior, messenger, and divine being in a past and future tense?
Thanks, Bruce, for your question. I think it's very important, this question. So yes, for our perspective in Earth, Christ is the only spirit of the first category that we have knowledge of, and he in fact was very important on building and constructing our planet. If we see Emmanuel's book, Way to the Light, we can see this described as Jesus with a set of other very high hierarchy spirits helping creating the earth. So for our perspective, we can always pray for Jesus. We can always rely on him. He knows each one of us deeply with his capability of reading our minds and being close to us. And his goal is that our planet achieves a certain level of progression, and that we evolve as individuals, and as a group. However, there are several other spirits in the same hierarchy in the universe. Like the universe is huge, is infinite. So there are many Jesus out there. And we also will become one. All of us are perfectible, so we will have all the seeds necessary to develop all the intellectual capacity. We and all the moral development. So even like if you don't like mathematics, you have like the seed of mathematics that you will develop, and one day you know more mathematics than the best mathematician that has been in Earth. You have the seed of love, that you'll be able to love everyone as Christ loves everyone, or as we today love a son, a father, a mother, a wife, a brother, a very close friend, and we'll be able to expand this love to the whole humanity. And we'll one day, considering our effort, our learnings, our reincarnations, we'll be able to be there as well. So yes, from Earth perspective, Christ is unique. However, there are several Christs in the universe, and one day we'll become one perfect spirit as well. And the attribution of the perfect spirits is being major co-creators. That means that they execute the God plans, creating the planets, the universe, and manipulating the matter in a very strong way to ensure that God laws and the harmony of the universe is possible. So I think that's my perspective. Does anyone has any complement, different view on this?
Yes, I may add, it's certainly true what you said, Daniel, but now we have to be careful how we communicate, because Spiritism is open to whole humanity, not only for Christians, because only 1/3 of the humans are Christians. 2/3 of the humanity are non-Christians, and some of them do not even know who is Jesus. And they, on the other side, they follow other big leaders and elevated spirits like Buddha, like Confucius, like Lao Tzu, like Muhammad, or whoever. So I think we should present this as a whole team of good spirits who are here to assist our Earth in the evolution, who came in all the countries at all the times, different places, to bring the teachings, as we have seen, as you explained very well, Moses, and then Jesus, and then the spirits of truth helping Kardec. So we have to see this as a spiritual team of elevated spirits who we have some difficulties. It may be true that Jesus is the leader of that team, but maybe not. What is important is not to individualize those elevated spirits, as Kardec always was saying, is to say, okay, Jesus was really an outstanding one, but not the only one. And this then comes with a dialogue and a discourse which is really opening to also to the whole humanity, and not restricting or bringing some discomfort or uncomfort to some people from cultures who do not know even who is Jesus. Because what's important are the teachings. And the teachings, again, when we go to the root of all the religions, to love your neighbor, the notion of God, and so on, non-violence, and you find this in the root of all the religions. So there is really a set of universal moral laws, or natural laws, we can say as well, which are common to all the religions. And this is really what we have to focus on. And this is really also one aspect of this revolution that Kardec brought with the Spiritist teachings, with the help of the spirits. Silvia, please.
No, I was just going to say that that there are many beliefs, and of course we know that all the religions in Spiritism, we respect everybody, and I think just the point that you made, that Jesus, what the laws that he brought, the things that he taught us, is for everyone, is irrelevant even for people who don't have any religion at all. They can be atheists, but they live a life of kindness and caring, a high moral life. It doesn't, of course, when you believe in God, it's easier sometimes to do this, but there are many people, they call themselves humanists, whatever it is, or they don't believe in a God as they believe, because sometimes the church have been quite difficult in teaching things. But if you live a moral life, if you live a good life, and you are a good person, and you care for others, you are a good person. So you don't need as such a religion. So that's why in Spiritism we accept that everyone is welcome and they can accept it. But we do have Jesus as a model and guide. It is in the Spirit's book that he is a model and guide, because the way he was, the way he behaved, the things he taught, because you can get everything that Jesus said and put into sentences. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, this is all the law and all the prophets. So in this, you include everyone. It's respect for each other. No matter what they believe, you respect them. They are our brothers and sisters in God. And I think this is very important sometimes to them, because the teachings of Jesus, in a way, brought together all the things that had gone before and came since. Because if you love God and your neighbor as yourself, imagine if we could put this into practice, we would have a very loving and peaceful world, because we would treat people the way we want them to treat us. And unfortunately, until this, we don't have that. But also, I think the teachings of Jesus, to me anyway, it comes to the point that Jesus didn't teach us so that we could go to heaven, but that we could build heaven on earth. I think this is what the teachings, and that's what he did. He forgave, he was loving, he was caring. When he had to say you are doing wrong, he had the courage to say that. But he, even those, he welcomed them. And I think this is very important, because the teachings that he left us, and it's integrated in almost everything. You're learning Sufism, in the Chinese, what you name, let's say, and all that knowledge, it sort of came together in the teachings of Jesus. So for us to build on earth heaven, not to wait to go to heaven with the teachings, and I think that's how I see it, and it's very, very important for us to be integrating and loving to everyone. But we cannot deny that Jesus was, like a spirit said, he was the messenger of God. He was a divine Messiah. And we need to validate his role in our understanding of this planet, and of spiritism, and of all religion. He was a very a messenger, a divine messenger. He was a divine Messiah, and he was a spokesman for God. He was medium of God, as they said. So I think we have to validate his role in respecting everybody, of course, and being welcoming to all. But I personally, I think we need to put Jesus as in a role that he represents to our planet. Thank you.
Yeah, you brought very, very nice perspectives. Thanks for your contribution. I think there is a very interesting analogy that once I heard in a young youth group reunion, where someone asked, like, what's spiritism for you guys? And one of the girls gave a very good answer. That was, imagine a very dark room, a very, very, very dark room, and you try to see and you can't. And suddenly a light appears, and this light shows you the room and shows you it's a complete mess, and that everything, it's not well organized, and so the light is not going to fix anything for you. The light is just showing you what you need to do, and that light for her was spiritism. So that's could be also included for Christianism, or Christianism, or on any other religion. The point of having a particular religion, or of believing on spiritism or any other religion, don't makes you better or worse. It's not gonna fix you the room. So the point is, we always in spiritism say that you should look at the principles, you should apply your knowledge, you should apply, you should think, and you should reject what you don't agree. However, if you agree and you want to be a truth spiritism follower, you need to behave the way that spiritism suggests you to, and it suggests based on a certain rules and certain principles, very well explained, and those behaviors are not exclusive for spiritists, so for spiritism followers. So it's the charity, is the love, is treating everyone well, is focusing on our study and developing each of the attributes that will make us a perfect spirit in the future. So of course, it's a talent, it's a resource, a tool that can help us, but we need to put effort. We need to try our best, and anyone can do that independently from which faith the person has. So we have many people that follow other religions or don't follow any religion at all, that behave extremely well, aligned with the principles that Christianism and Spiritism bring us. That's, after all, the fraternity, the love, the charity. Elsa, I think you have a comment here.
No, I was pointing because I want to speak after you, but you can't finish yours.
No, I'm done. I talked a lot. Please do contribute.
No, only share. I said this many times before, because studying with us in our Spiritist Center here in London, we have people that came from the non-Christian background. They like so much studying the Spirit's book the gospel. And sometimes they say to us comparison with some teachings from the gospel with their teachings from their books, okay, their fundamental books, and they are the same. Really, they are the same. So, as Silvia pointed very well, the concepts of Christ or Jesus, because Christ was the name here, because there is a many Christs on the planets. But the concept of Jesus, teachings of Jesus, is everywhere. All religions have the same because they are fundamental for evolve the planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have
Okay, so we do have a comment from a friend of ours, Danny, and he is in Chicago as well. So he said, spiritualists like to give channeled messages for individuals. They are well known for this here in the US and charge money for it. Let me see here. We do have another question from our friends in Spain. Do you think Spiritism movement lost the experimental aspect Kardec based the Spiritist codification?
Changes evolved.
Okay, very, very interesting question. Very important question. And I think the answer is, like, if I needed to position myself, I would say no. It didn't lose the experimental part. However, I think the phenomenons had decreased the number of more impressive phenomenons with materializations and the tables that happened more frequently in Kardec's time. Because that was important to attract the attention of scientists and people like Kardec and other scientists that were part of the Spiritism Society at that time and supported Kardec in his studies and his research. So those kind of phenomenons, yes, had decreased, but we see other kinds of phenomenons that are experiments all the time. So we see communications, we see healings, dreams. All of those are kind of experiences, and you can feel the experience in yourself. When you talk good things, you're in a good place, you make connection with God, you feel well, you feel happy, you feel like if something was expanding in you when you do something well and you do something aligned with the progress law. However, when you are in a place where people are more focused on materiality things, or when you're mad, upset, or fighting with someone, you feel bad, you feel ashamed, it's a heavy feeling, and this is an experiment, I would say, that help us see that really the natural law exists, and what we do in accordance to it make us happy, and what we do against it make us painful and upset, because that's the way the tools God gave us to help us progress. So I would say that the experiments are out there, but sometimes we expect those experiences to be miracles, to be something that you would see like extremely clear. But sometimes the help of God is very slight. It's like an intuition, something you remembered. So it doesn't need to be a super phenomenon. So I don't think Spiritism lost this experimental part, and you could do the experiments in yourself and see what makes you feel good and positive, and connect yourself internally. And that's my perspective on that, and would love to hear your opinions as well.
I would like to make a point here, if I may, as well.
Sure, of course.
I think, in a sense, that all the phenomena that started the movement, specifically that called attention to humanity, that there was something happening with the teachings of the Spirit and everything. But once we had Kardec, who studied the phenomenon and put in beautiful books, I mean, incredibly deep in understanding, we don't need that kind of phenomenon anymore. I mean, even some of mediumship that, you know, voice mediumship and everything, now very, very rare we see that kind of phenomenon, because I think it has progressed as well. People can understand in a deeper level the teachings of the spirits without having to have demonstrations. I think, of course, there is still, you know, the study of mediumship actually now has become a science in itself, hasn't it, Daniel? Because there is a lot of very major scientists studying how the phenomenon happens. So it is in a way, as you said, it's going on, but it's in a higher level. Now you don't need to have tables moving around. People can quite easily accept in an intellectual level. And we are progressing in the studying of mediumship, how the phenomena happens, what makes a person a medium and what's required of a medium. And basically all the basic studies in the medium's book, and is in the first books of that Kardec put together. So I think, you know, we now don't need like the lights, but we are doing the research, we are going deeper into it, but I think it's more intellectual in a sense that we can have a higher level now of things that we can understand. I think it would be I think the same with the miracles. Jesus had to do quite a lot of miracles to attract people to what he wanted to teach. So I think now we understand in a deeper level. So I think that's my opinion. Thanks.
Great. It's wonderful, my dear. Thank you. And the last question of today, it's our friend Mohammed, and he says, how can a man love? What is love? How can a man love his neighbor as himself?
That's a very beautiful question and difficult to answer, especially in our current level. But I would say that love is a seed that God put on us, that is able to manifest itself when we have situations of pain in very close people from us. So let me give you an example. When you have a mother or a child or someone that's very close to you passing through a very tough situation, let's say that this person needs to pass through a surgery, and you say, like, I wished I would pass through this surgery in the place of the person. I want to help. I want to do everything I can, like to help this person, even better than me. I think that's the first signs of love that emerge for us, that we are able to understand and see and feel in our current life. But it's, as I said, it's a seed that each step on our evolution, we make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Although we are not able still yet to love everyone and to love all our neighbors, we can feel it selectively with some people, and more as we come over and over again. But yeah, it's a very abstract concept, and I would love to hear compliments from you all.
Love is basically, because you told it before, the example and the behavior of Jesus. He put the love in practice and showed us what love is. That's if we would like to summarize the gospel in one word, it would be love. That is summarizing the whole gospel. And I would add also to the end of the question, how can someone love his neighbor as himself? So imagine you love a lot yourself and you hate your neighbors. Do you think this is a correct attitude? No, this is narcissist. It's ego. selfish, is whatever, but it's not love.
Mhm.
And also we can understand that if you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor. This is also understandable.
Yeah.
If you don't have the self-esteem and so on, how can you have first to build somehow this in you, but as soon as you build a little bit of self-esteem, you have to raise accordingly to have love your neighbor as you love yourself. And this is exactly the lessons that Jesus gave us.
Yeah, and it's a fine tune between selfishness and self-love, in which we need to be very conscious what we're gonna do. That's the trick part.
Yeah, and also I think, Mohammed, if you think in the terms of the teachings of the Sufi, in the poems of Jalaluddin, when he talks about the beloved, that is a universal love. It's not one directed at something, but it's directed to a higher power and to everyone in general. So it's love. It's the love of God has for us that we need to spread out. And you learn this in Sufism and in the poems, especially of Salahuddin. So it's very universal love that touches everyone, and you are able to see the other person as you see yourself. That's what it is really, I think.
Good. Okay. So our time is up. Wonderful discussion. We can talk in here for a long time, and but unfortunately we need to close us and follow Kardec radio schedule. So, but before we leave, I want to say thank you, Danny, for your availability. It's well done, well presented, well explained. So, thank you very much for your putting your skin on the game here. It's very valuable. So, and it's open doors. Anytime you want to participate, to contribute, please feel free to reach us, and we will be with more than pleasure to put you here in this hotspot again.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for making this happen, trusting me, and also I think every time we study, and this is a very important studying opportunity, we are the one that most benefit from it. It was very helpful and important for me doing this study. So yeah, appreciate it, and congratulations for your work. And I've been following some of your lives. It's super. As a viewer, is also I'm super thankful for that. So thanks, Stevan, and everyone.
Thank you. So let me put the announcements here. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Okay, so guess who's gonna give our talk on 6th of November? Leon Denis, A New Perspective on Pain. Our friend Daniel will be with us again on this wonderful project led by BUS with support of Kardec Group, Irish Spiritist Federation, Kardec Radio. Also, in November, on the 20th and 21st of November, we will have the Spiritism Next 2021. And the topic is Understanding Our Multidimensional Journey. So in order to attend, please register at spiritismx2021.eventbrite.co.uk. Okay, so our next program on the 3rd of November is Dealing with Premature Deaths. It's a wonderful topic. especially for this time of the year when the Christians commemorate the deaths. So that's the, I think, yeah. So what is, Silvia? Help me.
All Souls Day.
All Souls Day. That's
the
it,
2nd of November. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Also, we do have our friends, Guilherme Dias and Rafael Caldas. They have their show, Time to Talk, Conversations on Mediumship. It's every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. London time. Kardec Group, they do hold a donation program with 2 institutions in Brazil, Grupo Espírito Sheila, Instituto Mutirão in Curitiba. If you want to donate or participate, just go to www.kardec.org.uk/high5. Also, they have podcasts, Insightfully Speaking, and you can listen the podcast from all the main good platforms we have available in the market. Our friends from Spiritism Medical friends, they will have the 2nd virtual International Spiritism Medical Congress. There is no date here. Oh, yes, it's on November 2021, Elsa. Same day than the Spiritism Next.
Yeah.
20 and 21st.
Yeah, 21st. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay. And International Spiritist Youth Group, Sembradores de Luz. They are doing a wonderful job in Portuguese, in English, and Spanish, with wonderful teachings for our children and youth. So the next event is on Saturday, November the 6th, just after Daniel talk. So it will be here in Ireland and the UK around 6 o'clock, something, 6 p.m. here. So, and I think, and just remind you, because this Sunday, our clocks will change. So we're gonna lose one. We're going
to win an hour.
Oh, we're gonna win an hour. Yes, I said we're gonna win an hour. Yeah, we're gonna win an hour. Therefore, for you guys who are in the US, like New York time, our show will start at 4 p.m. In Chicago, probably 5 p.m. San Diego, 1 p.m. Brazil and Uruguay, 6 p.m. Okay? So be aware. And I think in the following week, you guys in US will change clocks as well. So we'll go back to the normal time. Okay? So that's it from us today. I want to say thank you for everyone. Thank you for all the participation. Great questions we had today. Great visibility. It's amazing to have you. Thank you, Kardec Radio, for supporting us. Thank you, Charles. You are
Merci.
a wonderful person.
Wonderful to see
you,
Charles.
Ms. Gibbons, Elsa, Danny,
Bye,
thank you very much. I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Thank you, Danielle.
Bye.
Be together on 6th of November.